All right, guys. You should all be able to see us. I hope so, anyway. Or maybe you're not going to see us because you're listening to us when we eventually get around to putting it on other platforms. All right, welcome everyone to the stream. My name's Glermit, and I'm joined again by the Optimist. This is the second.
Right, guys.
Oh,
You should
oh
all be
no,
able
guys!
to
I
see
forgot to
us.
mute the stream. There you go. All right, sorry about that, guys. All right, we're live. Like I say, my name's Glermit. I'm joined by the Optimist. This is the second of our podcasts. These are live, don't worry. I know that when you're watching them, you may think that it's not, but it is. And how have you been today?
I'm doing pretty well. Really can't complain. We're just having a good time.
Awesome. Okay, so guys, if you didn't notice from the name of the stream today, it's all about Conquest. We was going to do this last week, but then we both realized it's Halloween and we had other commitments that we was going to do. So we never got around to doing it. So just so you guys know what's going to come up for today's episode, we're going to start by talking about our general experience of Conquest, and it's very different. I am not a fan. I'm really, for many reasons. Okay, thank you. Let me go change that. Thanks for telling me there. I did not realize that. Alright, guys. Where is it? 1 second. Alright. It will take me 1 second to fix this, don't worry. Okay. At the bottom, did you say?
Yeah, it was cutting off a little bit, like right around where my mouth is. So I think just raise it up just a little bit.
Oh yeah, I see. I see what you're talking about. Oh, it's still cutting off your mouth. Well, I probably should have fixed this before the
Here,
show.
see if I sit a little
that's
taller.
okay. Yeah, if you just sit a little bit taller, that fixes it.
I'll sit a little taller. There we go.
Alright, sorry about that. Also got to remove this. All right, well, we're back. That was fun. Oh, that was a fun intro. All right, guys. So yeah, it's gonna be good for us to have different opinions, and make sure to leave comments during the stream. Like, what do you guys think about Conquest? Any questions? We'll answer them. We'll go over them. So, I figure we might as well start with the positive take on Conquest. So, do you want to talk a little bit about why you enjoy it?
Yeah, I've always kind of enjoyed the puzzle aspect of Conquest, or I just like using. I just like playing the game. It's one of those things that there's not always a lot of modes that you can really play. Like Squad Arena, you have limited attempts, and it really is only just like super stacked teams that are playing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to be able to use, especially as your roster gets bigger. You can just go and play with it. I find the data discs are really fun, and I think it's I don't know. There's some team comps that just I don't know. It's fun to mess around with, but I don't know. It's one of those that I'm more of a PvE guy compared to PvP, so I'm a fan of Conquest.
I think that's a fair take. I would have similar views as you if it wasn't just so grindy. That's kind of my issue with Conquest, because if you're very busy and if you play on more than one account, and I know you don't play on more than one account, all of a sudden it becomes something that's, half an hour a day to something that's going to take multiple hours. And that's kind of the problem that I have personally. I like the fact that you can mess around with different teams. I get kind of irritated personally because I'm always in a rush and I come on and I'm trying to do something. You go below 70% stamina on a certain team and they just start getting blitzed by something that shouldn't ever win. And all of these things kind of add to me kind of getting a little bit annoyed by it. That's kind of my take anyway.
And I'm with you there. The just because I enjoy the mode, there are some the feats that are win 14 battles, get 100 kills. I don't think anyone really enjoys those, and I wish that they'd be a bit more creative with some of their feats with that.
So, if you don't mind telling everyone, how many conquests, or not really how many, but when did you start at least unlocking characters within the 3 months?
Yeah, so when Conquest first started, it was the Razor Crest one.
Mm-hmm.
I was 3.5 million GP or like 3.6 million.
Yep.
So I could only do normal. It wasn't until like the last mall one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that I could actually like do hard conquest. And from the Scion of Django conquest, I was like right at 4 mil GP.
Yeah.
From Scion of Django on, I've gotten red crate from when I could just unlock hard all the way on. And again, they've gotten progressively harder.
Yeah.
Feats are different. It's not quite the same, but I ever since I've been able to do hard, I've done hard. And
that is a pretty good achievement. Right, just a couple of comments. We've got evening to both me and Glum too. That's you. Justin also said, "Is grindy if you have 4 accounts?" Yeah, this is kind of the point we're making. Yeah. When you start adding more accounts in the mix, it becomes a lot more difficult. I'll be honest. I think it's a real achievement that you've been able to basically red crate since you're more or less 4 mil. And I kind of knew you was going to say that because we've been friends the whole time. For me personally, it's a very different experience. And a lot of people will probably be saying, "But Glum, you're a YouTuber. How can you say what you're about to say?" And guys, I hate to say it, I think I've only red crated like maybe 4 or 5 times. Like that's it. And the reason being, it's just too time consuming. And especially since Datacrons became farmable in Conquest, I prefer to spend my time just farming Datacrons rather than going for red crate. Because what you'll find, and we'll be talking about this soon, is you can actually unlock characters the first month of release, or just the month after, and not have to really red crate at all. I think you have to red crate once to unlock it day 1. And then to unlock it the month after, you can literally do the second to last crate each time. You're fine. So if you're not too worried about getting everything day 1, which personally, it sounds really weird because obviously I make content for the game. But I prefer to put my resources somewhere that I feel will benefit me more, which is in Datacrons, for example. Whereas the characters, you're going to get them eventually, you're going to unlock them. It's not like you're never going to have them. The Datacrons, if you don't farm that set when it's available, you're never going to get that set again. So it's been a very different experience for me. Guys, I do try to red crate when I can. It's just, I never have the time, okay? Right, so we have another question. How do you stay motivated for Conquest? I think this is really a question for you.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Conquest is one of those things that, like, it is really demoralizing, especially when you have, like, wow, like, let's just take, like, the Ewok feat. You got to win 40 battles with Ewoks. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, so I can win at 100% stamina, or I could, like, maybe win at 90% stamina, but that's it. And you have to, space it out because you're having to, maintain the stamina. I don't know. I can't speak about, me personally, just because for me, it's just become part of my routine, and it's something that I look forward to. Yeah. But I don't know. It's, I would recommend just like trying to find ways that, maybe that you enjoy it. Maybe if it's, learning about a certain team, or, taking the time, like, if you've never played with Phoenix before, taking the time to like read up on their kits and, maybe practice with the certain teams, maybe try out a different modding style or something. Try to, do something to make it less about winning the battles, but more about like, maybe let's experiment with this team or something. Again, what works for me isn't going to work for you guys. Conquest is definitely one of those things, unfortunately, like you kind of just have to do it.
I think that's a really good take. I really do. Before I give my answer to this question, we have Hell Ate My Soul saying, "I find the first Conquest of the series of 3 time-consuming. Then when you learn all the cheeses, it's a lot quicker. This time round, for example, I did Red Box within 6 days on current Conquest." That's a real achievement. See, for me, and it kind of goes back, and sorry for interrupting you there, to the point was made before, the question, how do we stay motivated? They're kind of tied in together. Like, yes, Hell Ate My Soul has maxed in 6 days. For me, my motivation is not to red crate. My motivation is to farm Datacrons. So what I do personally is I rush to Sector 4, and I do that in like a day, maybe 2 days max. And then I'll spend over a week doing 5 to 6 refreshes on Conquest, doing just Datacrons, And then I get hit by the worst motivation ever because I'm like, I have 5 days left. I have 300 tickets left. How do I even get around doing this? And that's kind of, and that comes to what you were saying, where you really have to try and keep motivation. We have another comment here. This Conquest is awful for me because I didn't get the OP bonus turn disc. Losing too much keycards on battles while doing more feats because I know more cheeses. I'll be honest. Staying motivated in Conquest just comes down to what you want. Like, another friend of mine who's not here today, I think he came on the channel with you and me, Optimus, actually. It's Arctic. He came on a long time ago when I first started this YouTube channel. And
I remember that.
He doesn't do, the best in Conquest every single time, but when it comes to motivation, when Malgus came out, he sat down and said, I need Malgus. I think he was like 7 mil, 6 mil at the time. And he said, I need Malgus. And he did everything he could, and he actually got them day one. So, like, maybe it's not so much a motivation for Conquest. Maybe there's a character that comes out that you want. Like, for example, when Ben came out, I was very much about Ben coming out. Or, for example, Trench. I really wanted Trench, so I made sure I was motivated to do that. I'll be honest, with the current Conquest, Gideon, I do really want him. But again, like, things have changed since these characters. Now we have Datacrons, now we can farm them. And for me, that's kind of where we're going there. For anyone who's just joining the stream today, we are talking all about Conquest. At the moment, we're just talking about our experiences. You have me, who doesn't like Conquest, letting us know some more thoughts you guys have. But I think we should really move on to our first topic today, which is really about how do you max Conquest? What do you actually need to do well? And not just that, but we're going to be talking about, do you actually need to red crate? So do you want to get us started off here?
Yeah, and this will be probably one of the few times that I can shameless plug here. But a little bit ago, back when I was still making YouTube content, I made a video. I think this was when Malgus was the Conquest reward, and I made a video on how to maximize your Conquest.
Yep.
And there's a lot of things that aren't necessarily the case anymore, just because of again how old the video is. But the premise is still more or less the same. Every Conquest is going to be different. There's different feats, and depending on how big your roster is, some things will work more than others. But the gist of it is more or less the same. Obviously, once you get into hard Conquest, you are going to you obviously need to have 4 mil GP. And I'm going to be honest, if you want to do really well, or to if you want to at least get to the farthest sectors, you are either going to need to have a Galactic Legends with the optimized team, or you're going to need to have a complementary amount of legendary teams in order to make up for the difference of a Galactic Legend, because you can, for the most part, with the right data disk setups, you can cheese your way through most of the battles. However, there are going to be some battles to where you just need you need that really powerful character or really powerful team that will get you over the hump. And however, though, as long as you have just one, or you have the right teams, and we'll go over what some of those teams are later throughout this podcast. But the most important thing is the data disk setups. But it is something that you will need either a top tier team or multiple B or A tier teams to make up the difference.
Awesome. Right, so before I give my take, Headache My Soul said, fully agree with that. They're talking about the previous point. When Scythe was out, I had no motivation to get it within 3 conquests, as didn't have GI at the time. And I think that's also something to bear in mind. So, when we're talking about maxing Conquest, guys, I mean, Optimus kind of summed it up. Data discs are the most important thing. And I'll be real, there is one place you can go, guys, on the internet, if you want to max Conquest and make it easy, and that's Bit Dynasty. They make some fantastic content.
Oh,
yeah. It's literally unmatched. Cdaxera also does some good stuff, but Bit Dynasty is the guy I would recommend. You go there, you watch his video, he will show you what you need. Because what sometimes will happen is you'll play through Conquest, and if you're like me, you just say, oh, this one's shiny, and you just pick whatever data disc you want. And then you get to the end, and you're trying to do feats, and you realize you never got the one you need. I didn't have any voluntary Vanguard last Conquest. That was fun. So when I was trying to do the feats of low gear characters at the end, it was a little bit difficult, and it did mean I have to spend more refreshers. So it's important to kind of look at your data disks. It's a bit similar to what I've been saying on streams and videos recently, where I've been saying, like, in terms of progression in Grand Arena, Datacrons can help boost an account. Think of it the same way with Conquest, where even if you're lower GP, if you get good data disks, it also enables you to punch up a lot more than you should be able to. We're talking about Amplify Agonies. In the past, we're talking about, even now, Voluntary Vanguards, and all of the Caustic Emissions, these sorts of data disks. I cannot remember for the life of me the one that used to be health-based damage. Can you remember what that one that was called?
Oh,
My brain doesn't work today.
are you thinking of like the Volatile Accelerator Amplify Agony setup, or?
No, the one that was supports and healers gain offense based on health.
Oh, Zealous Ambition.
That's the one. So in the past, Zealous Ambition. So these ones are all really good. So, like, for example, a good character or a good team you can invest in, CLS team, because there's lots of exposures, lots of debuffs. Debuffs can be converted into massive damage with Datacrons. Or data discs even. There's too many data things in this game. Another team or character that's hilarious. And one day, guys, I will make a video about me trying to at least clear Conquest from the first node to the last using only Lord Vader. Because with the right data disc, you literally load in your AoE, match done. Nothing else is needed. So there are easy ways to get around it. But the problem really comes from when you have to get feats done. And that's where you need a larger roster. But before we go over feats, I feel like we should give our kind of top 3 teams. You can get, or actually, let's do this a little bit different. I'll give a team, you give a team, and then you guys watching comment some teams, and the one that gets said the most will include as the third team would recommend. I feel like that would be pretty fun. So for me personally,
I agree. And real quick, before we get started, you mentioned some great channels for Conquest contents.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Bit Dynasty definitely has to be top of the list. I would say really any PvE content, Bit Dynasty like just is the go-to for that.
Yep.
Celiac Sierra is fantastic. One more, and I'm going to put it in the chat for anyone who's watching. It is Tripolysis.
Ah, yes, I've seen them.
When it comes to, there are some feats that I had no business passing.
Mm-hmm.
But he comes up with like some of the best strats. So like, I'll give one for example, the Tuscan Warrior 100 kills. My Tuscan Warrior is gear 8 with, I don't even think I have the Omegas on all the abilities. And I got that one in 2 or 3 battles. And basically, like, because like you, as long as you have the right data disk setups, mainly it being voluntary Vanguard, and if you don't have that, then unfortunately you're gonna have to use Watt. But you go to the Mon Mothma node, and you can just cheese the ever-living hell out of the characters that revive, and you can get up to like 40, 50 kill, like maybe like 30 kills a battle, and you can crank it out in 2 or 3 battles.
Yeah, I'd seen that channel before. That's a great take. Right. So we have a first comment for a team that, you know, the people watching today believe is a top 3 team, and that's Reaver Inquisitors with debuff discs. And it's the same sort of thing as with Lord Vader, because when debuffs are applied, you're dealing damage to them with the right data discs, and Reaver gives the 6 stacks of Purge out of the gate. We also have Jabba being mentioned. I'm just going to go out there and say Reaver lead Inquisitors is definitely one of them. That would have probably been my pick. However, you don't actually need Reaver. GI is also really good in Conquest. Like, both of them work really, really well. But if I was going to give one that I would stand by and that I really think is super easy, for me it's Dash. Dash is a very easy, accessible character that almost everyone has now. Thank you, CG, for Lightspeed bundles. And it's because you go in, if you have the right data discs, you literally AoE, you apply so many debuffs, everyone dies. And it's literally as simple as that. And even in the past, when you've had data discs, my mind's gone blank again, you have to remind... You're going to have to remind me the data disc for the health-based damage again, because my mind's gone blank.
It's Zealous Ambition.
Zealous Ambition, there we go. Dash also did crazy damage with Zealous Ambition as well. So that's kind of my take. I think Dash as a character there. And you can also put him in different teams. Like, say you need to do wins with a certain character, surviving Dash can be put in there. Alright, for you, who would you say is the is your go-to character?
This is my tried and true, probably my favorite team in Conquest. I actually made a montage video of it, as well as in my Conquest video. I touch on this team, this character, and for me, this is hands down. It's the best Conquest team. You can do it to clear every node all the way up into Sector 5, up to 1% stamina. Any sort of like win with X character surviving, this will get it for you. And it is Bam, Han, Chewie plus anyone. And all you need is a volatile accelerator, a like 2 amplify agonies, and then a couple of the turn meter ones. And you will also need the Zeta on Bam's lead, because what that does is it gives you 2% turn meter every time you damage someone. And with how volatile accelerator and amplify agony works, you will, the damage that you do is just absurd, but then 2, you will gain so much turn meter from the damage that you're doing that you will just outrun every team no matter how fast they are. Again, you can do this down to 1% stamina. I showed videos of my Bam at like 1% stamina, 3-manning gas in Sector 5, and nobody died. So definitely my go-to team, and if I would recommend it to anyone, is Bam, Han, Chewie plus whatever characters.
I knew that was coming. Right. So we had a few more comments. We've had, obviously, Reaver Inquisitor has been mentioned. Jabba's been mentioned. We've also had CLS mentioned. And we've also had Ray Ben mentioned. Also Adrad. So we've got some good teams there. Now, here's where it kind of... My opinions might be different to yours and everyone watching. For me, if we're talking about the best Conquest teams possible, I don't like to include anything too hard to get. Because otherwise, if someone's saying, I'm going to be 4 million GP at the end of the month, what do I farm? And someone says, you need Reaver, you need Jabba, you need Ray-Ben. These are all fantastic teams, but they're not going to have them, right? That's why I think like Dash is quite accessible. He's quite good. He's very good in Conquest. For you, your Beskar Mando team is very accessible. We also have Adrad mentioned, a very good team to use as well. So that's kind of where my approach comes from. I prefer to go for characters that are more accessible but still very strong, because Ray-Ben's very good, and so is all these other teams. But not everyone's going to have them. And the other thing you're going to find is if you're 6, 7, 8 million GP. It may be more of a motivation issue rather than a team's issue when it comes to clearing Conquest, which we go back to what Justin asked earlier, how do you stay motivated? So if that's the case, you wouldn't really be recommending these teams to those players anyway, because they're not going to need them. So I hope that kind of clears up some good stuff there. We've also got Padme carried me at 4 mil GP, CLS Padme squad, Imp Troopers, or even Gas squads. Gas squads is a really good one there. The only problem with General Skywalker is some teams he will struggle against, but Gas is a really, really good one. I do like her. In fact, one of my buddies was doing Conquest for the first time. He's literally doing hard mode Conquest now, and Gas is like his only team. It's amazing. It can definitely work. Again, guys, all of these teams are good, but they are very data disk dependent. CG apparently sponsors me because I talk about Dash all the time. I mean, maybe. If they do, I wouldn't tell you. Right, Night Sisters would be a good cheaper team. Night Sisters, especially since Merrin came out, are a great team. And I actually plan on making a video on that when I get into normal mode Conquest next month on the alt account, the Hyperdrive Rista Kyber account, because I do now have Night Sisters all at Gear 12 there. So I'm going to be doing a video on that there, showing you guys the deets. Alright, so unless you have anything to say about the teams, I feel like we should maybe move on to actually maxing Conquest, because having teams that clear Conquest does not mean you have teams to max Conquest. And I know what you're thinking, and I'm going to say it before you say it. JML. JML has so much value, not necessarily for clearing Conquest, but for doing feats, because if you have JML and Wat Tambor, you can do a lot of work here. Now, obviously, this has changed ever so slightly. Now we've got Voluntary Vanguard. You can kind of skip him. But for the most part, if you have JML, Wat Tambor, you can really power through some of these harder feats to do in Conquest. Anything else you want to add?
No, for sure. JML's there. There's one thing that I wanted to add, and this kind of goes, it kind of ties in with both of what we're wanting to talk about here,
Hmm.
is that my overall strategy or thoughts around Conquest is that there is there is a pattern and a formula to winning in Conquest, and you brought up with JML, this kind of goes with it.
Yep.
I think one of the holdups that I see people have with Conquest is they're saying, how do I beat these characters? They've got all this over prepared and they're relic 8s and they've got all these advanced stats and I'm losing stamina, this is happening and this is happening. And the goal that you want to keep in mind is that Conquest is made to provide you with the tools to like make your team super overpowered, but not in the ways that it's boosting your stats, but it's through mechanics that it won't matter how low of stamina you are. You want to rely or you want to build up teams that will always guarantee that you go first, or that they have mechanics, whether if you can get a team under 100% right off the bat, around 100% health, you can boost all the turn meter, so it doesn't matter that you're at 30% stamina and you've got like 120 speed. Those are kind of things to keep in mind, or the idea that like, can I cheese my way to going first, or can I cheese my way to outlasting the team and let that team slowly kill itself off? And it's just, there's little things, and again, they will change from conquest to conquest depending on what data discs are out there. But the key thing is just data discs and the right team comps are how you succeed in conquest. And like you just brought up JML, and like you said, JML Watts, but like you said with Voluntary Vanguard, if you have that disc, you now free up a spot where you don't need Watt anymore. You can just throw Voluntary Vanguard on JML, and JML now will just taunt. Yep. Without needing a fifth character there to make him taunt. But yeah, no, let's jump into this topic here.
All right, thank you for the in-depth analysis as always. Right, so when we're talking about maxing Conquest, there are some teams you're going to want to farm. Although we never know what's coming in the future for feats until obviously the Conquest is upon us, I think it's a safe bet to say by now you should have some form of Rebel Fighter team and you should have some form of Inquisitor team, because these two teams always seem to have some form of feat that comes up, whether this is applying Purge, whether this is just straight up wins. Rebel Fighters have had quite a few feats actually throughout the Conquest where it's just wins with Rebel Fighters or kills with Rebel Fighters. So having these sorts of teams built up is very beneficial. I'm going to be honest, guys. Inquisitors are the team to farm. CG clearly wants us to do it because GI is so important, Reaver is so important. Every single conquest, you either need wins of Inquisitors or you need wins with, or not wins, but applying Purge. We're also starting to see a little bit of a trend with Phoenix coming out. And we've also seen a little bit of a trend as well with Purge feats. Not Purge, Plague feats. That's the one. There's too many P's in this game. So, like, obviously, it's always speculation, but going for either newer teams, newer characters, like, for example, Mandalorians are currently coming out, so expect them to be needed for the next Conquest. Alternatively, going for, like, the teams that CG seem to push all the time, those Inquisitors, those Rebel Fighters, they can also be good as well.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I know we talked about it in our last podcast with, like, if you look at the latest content, or if you look at the Rise of the Empire TV map, the content is following kind of the path that CG puts there. And Conquest is, it's no exception. CG, there's times where they've set it out right, and then there's times where they're kind of more sneaky with it. They, as a way, an extra incentive to encourage you to spend on the game or to invest in these new teams and characters, they are going to lock these feats behind these new characters. So, like you said, I guarantee in this next Conquest, for whoever the new character is, we can expect to see some, like, win with Paz Vizsla surviving, or, win with a full team of Mandalorians. I guarantee we're going to see some stuff like that. Or, we have Keller and Beck and IG-12 are coming as part of the requirements for the new Bo-Katan. I'm pretty sure we might see some feats tied to, like, Galactic Republic Jedi or with droids or something like that. So definitely, like, be prepared when you are when you're thinking about what teams you're going to be building up, or maybe taking a character up, giving them a Zeta, doing something. Just know that, like, hey, Conquest is going to need these characters, for better or for worse.
Alright, so Hell Ate My Souls just commented saying, don't forget Tuscans. They always seem to be there as well. Yeah, again. Yeah. And what you're going to find is, even if it's not the team, it's what they apply. It's the mechanic. Like the Plague, the Purge, the Momentum. Because these are very easy feats for CG to put in and just say, you need 1,000, you need 100, 200, 300. So it's very important to be farming these teams. Alright, unless you have nothing to add here, with regards to maxing Conquest, I feel like we've been speaking about that for a while. I would like us to talk a little bit about red crating. How important is it we red crate in Conquest? So for those of you who don't know, I've got it pulled up here. The red crate for Conquest is going to be giving 90 of the active unit shards in current Conquest, that is Gideon, and it's going to give 30 of the previous. Now you also get 10 of the flawed signal data, you get 10 of the incomplete, and you get 10 of the fragmented. And then you get some nice Gear 12 stuff, a few Zetas, some slicing mats, and we round it off with 10 aero magnifiers. Now, if you go to the crate below that, you're actually going to be getting 65 of the active, but only 25 of the recent one. So in this case, it is Malicos. And guys, you're going to see that the drop-off isn't that bad. Now, you would have heard me say at the beginning that you do not need to max, and Optimus would agree with this, you don't need to max crate to unlock day one. So let's say, for example, you red crate all 3 times, and that's all you're doing. That would give you, what, 270 shards, right? Yes, 270 shards, just from the red crate. That would mean, even to have day one unlock, you would have to be buying the shards each time. However, this is where we're going to talk about the Conquest Pass. So I know last stream you spoke about this and you said Conquest Pass is one of the things you actually buy in the game. And do you want to talk a little bit about why?
Yeah, it's one of the few things that it has really good value. And even the $30 pass, now that they've added the extra proving grounds, and you get the increased regen and all that, and you get the added feats. The $30 pass is a better value. $30 every month is a little pricey for me, but for $10 you're getting gear, you're getting Omicrons, and you're getting the extra character shards, which by default I can now spend my Conquest currency on signal data and gear 12 pieces. So for $10 a month, I've got $10 to spare. I don't really have an issue spending on the game. I know that is definitely going to be a point throughout the community, but I would say if you are going to spend and you intend on doing Conquest, the Conquest Pass is good value. And the other thing that is definitely underrated is it gives you the boosters just for free. They just give you a ton of them. And I will say it actually has come in handy. There's been a couple battles. There's been maybe some feats. I know in this current Conquest, on the Palpatine boss node, there's the win with Mandalorians, and my Mandalorians aren't quite up to snuff. They're a little under geared, and I threw a couple boosters on it. It helped me win, and get the feat and all for that. So, I would say if you could afford it, and if it's something that you want to buy, I would definitely encourage anyone who's interested to do that, because it just gives you a bunch of stuff.
Great take. So I'm someone who actually buys the $30 pass each month. It is expensive, guys. We're not saying you have to buy this. We're just saying it's an option. The reason I buy it is because, if you guys didn't know, the $30 pass, if you look at the feats, you'll see there's always like 2 or 3 feats that require 100 wins or 100 battles with this character or 100 kills with this character. For example, Tuscans. It could require 20 wins of Wookiees, right? It's just a really annoying feat that if you don't have the characters, it just takes a while. And if you buy the $30 pass, it actually gives you the reward you get from doing that feat, so you can completely skip it. So you get the 30 tickets without having to do it. For someone who wants to save time, it's a no-brainer. Honestly, since Proving Grounds Plus comes out, it's a little bit more higher value, but you don't need to buy it, guys. But the point we're trying to make is, if you was to max crate each time, buy the pass, you unlock the character day one. Even if you don't max crate, you can do red crate once if you're buying every shard, and then you get the second to last crate twice, and you buy the Proving Grounds not Proving Grounds, but Conquest Pass, the standard one, you will also unlock day one. But like we said earlier, and like a few of you commented, is there really a need? Do you actually need to unlock these characters day one? And I would say for a lot of players out there, you can get away with getting them a month later. It's not going to be the end of the world. As long as you get them while they're active, that's the 6 months that they're out, you're going to be good. Because you don't want to be doing them in Proving Grounds. So just focus on getting them done initially. And with that, I feel like this moves us over to Conquest units. And we're going to talk a little bit about...
Did we want to touch on Datacrons first, or did we want to do Datacrons after that?
Yeah, let's do Datacrons. Let's keep people waiting. Good. Yeah. I forgot we talked about that. Spoke about that before. Right, so guys, we're actually going to talk about Datacrons. We'll talk about the Conquest units just after this. So, what is the other benefit of Conquest? So not only unlocking new characters, but it's also unlocking Datacrons. And Datacrons are now farmable in Conquest. At the end of each sector, there is a mission. And you can repeat this mission as many times as you want. And you can sim it now. Although that is kind of a trap, guys. I'm going to be real. Don't always sim. Because then you're not going to full clear. Because you can use these sims to complete some of the harder feats. The ones that take more time. So at the end of Sector 1, we have at the moment it's Bad Batch. And they are going to be giving credits and Datacrons. Then from the second one... I want to say it's credits and the tier 1 currency, but I'm just going to have a look for you guys here. So the second one, tier 1 currency and credits. The third one will be tier 2 and tier 3, or tier 2 currency, tier 1 currency. Then it's tier 3 and tier 4. No, tier 2 and 3. Guys, I can't actually speak today. And then the last one is the slicing mats. Okay, I kind of made it through there. It just took way too long. Basically, each sector just unlocks the next one and removes the one before, whatever. So yeah, you can farm Conquest or Datacrons in Conquest. It is worth it. Like, if you're doing 3 refreshes of Conquest a day and you're just spending them on the Datacron node, you can at least get 3 or 4 level 6s, or maybe even 10 plus level 5s. However, and I will let you talk in a minute, don't worry.
Oh, no, we're good.
There is one other thing you can do, guys. If you are an achievement hunter and you want to unlock all those portraits, you can actually farm the Conquest nodes. So, for example, Dooku, I think it's against Galactic Republic. Is that the one to unlock his portrait? You can actually just do that against the Bad Batch node, just on repeat. You're getting Datacrons, you're getting data discs, whatever. And you're also getting progress towards those shiny little logos. All right, anything you want to add?
No, I'm with you there. I would say now that they added the simming option for Datacrons, it makes the process much less tedious when it comes to, like, let's just say you got the desired crate that you wanted, and you're like, all right, I'm not going to be playing any more battles. I just want to go. I need to get some more of the level 3 materials to upgrade my Datacrons. It is so nice just being able to refresh energy, sim a couple nodes, you get all the stuff you need, and to just go on. Like you said, I use the treasure nodes all the time to work on my feats, and I got plenty of Datacrons. I will say that the drop rate is kind of weird. There's like sometimes where it's like I get a ton of Datacrons, and then there's some times where like I'll go 20, 30 battles and just not get a single Datacron. But I will say I've gotten used to the stuff being there, and now that they've added the sim option, it's a lot easier. I know some people will farm Datacrons right away and then finish Conquest towards the second part of the week. I kind of like to do a little bit as I go. I know you're more Datacron oriented. I kind of like to finish Conquest first and then focus on Datacrons later. But again, these now that they've extended the seasons for Datacrons, you have a couple months to build these things up. Maybe you focus on getting your ideal crons first, and then the next time Conquest comes around, you focus on building up maybe some minor ones that you were looking for. But it's definitely really important, and CG8 every couple Conquests they've made it more and more easy. They've made it easier to interact with, which I can appreciate.
Yep. Yeah, I'm definitely someone who prefers to do Datacrons first. Especially because you have 1 week to prepare for GAC. If you was to farm Datacrons the second week, you're going to be behind on the people that don't. So for me, personally, I'd do Datacrons first, then do everything else. But yeah, guys, we're not saying you have to farm till you have like 10 to 15 level 9s, but you can if you want. It's there, it's an option, and it's one of the many benefits of Conquest. Alright, I feel like we can now actually move on to talking about the Conquest units. So guys, I'm going to let Optimist open up here. We're just going to kind of summarize the power of Conquest. We've spoken about Datacrons, we've spoken about how to get there, how to max it. What are the main rewards?
Yeah, I mean, so the reason that we put ourselves through 2 weeks of grinding feats and doing all these certain things that we say, we hate ourselves for, but the rewards honestly are worth it. I can't think of a single Conquest character that has come out where it's just like, wow, like this character was bad. I really wish I didn't invest in this. I think, in my opinion, the worst Conquest character is Scion of Django, and this is coming from someone with an R7, all 3 Omicron Scion of Django, and he's fantastic. I use him in Territory Wars to counter GLs, and I use him in a lot of teams in GAC and TB. He's fantastic, and it only goes up from there. Yep. All of these characters truly are meta-defining, and they are really important characters that you want on your roster, and they are worth the 2-week process of going to unlock them. And part of the incentive of, getting the red crates, or like you said, unlocking it within their cycle, is that it is rather cheap to acquire this character. Yep. Obviously, you are putting your time down, and there's not necessarily a value on the time, but just at least crystal-wise, it is very cheap to acquire these characters, bordering on free-to-play for how you can acquire them. Because compared to Proving Grounds, it gets very expensive if you don't acquire these characters right away. But again, all of them are truly really, really good. I think we're seeing it with Malicos, with the impact that he's having on the meta right now. And I know both you and I are really excited for the new Dark Trooper Gideon. I think he's going to be fantastic. Really excited for what he's going to bring. But these are characters that you definitely don't want to miss out on. I can't really think of a single one that like you and I haven't talked about, like, wow, man, like this character is really, really good. Like, even I know people were down on the Scythe for the longest time, but like, man, like the Scythe is such a good ship and really makes the off meta for ships just such a different ball game.
I think you touched on a really good point there where you spoke about meta defining. And for those of you who maybe don't agree with us, maybe you're just saying, but Admiral Trench or Boba Fett San Django or all of these other guys, just break it down for 1 second, guys. So we have Conquest units. We have Cat and Maul and Razor Crest. Razor Crest is obviously okay. Cat and Maul, I think CG realized their mistake, and that was not limiting their power a little bit, because they're just so good. They're so far above everyone else. You can't compare the other units to them. So if we was to move both of them from the from context here, we're looking at Boba Fett San Django. In Territory Wars, he does beat multiple Galactic Legends. Then we have Ben. Ben is on a similar level to Cat and Maul, but also he is a lifter. They're of different qualities there. But again, in Grand Arena, Ben is a lot more powerful than he is in Territory War. Admiral Trench in TW does beat many Galactic Legends. I'm sure the new Gideon will be the same. Malgus does really good work himself in Grand Arena. Malicos, again, Grand Arena, he's beating multiple Galactic Legends. And it's kind of the trend we're seeing. Like, these characters are so powerful, yet their power is limited to some degree outside of their targeted game mode. But the important thing to note here, guys, is that over time there'll be new characters come out that enable them to reach that same level of power in other modes. So, for example, we'll take Boba Fett San Django. He's not as good in Grand Arena as he is in Territory War. However, if you apply the Tusken Chief Omicron, you do still get value, and he is still good in that team. So there are other options there. It's not like they're just wasted outside of their usual modes. That's kind of my take. Like I said, guys, when you look at the Conquest units, you just have to kind of pretend that Cat and Maul don't exist. I will die on the hill that I think that was a mistake, making them as good as they are. And I think they should have gone more of the route with what they did with Ben. Because Ben is a great example. He's extremely good in Grand Arena. He still lifts Rey to a much higher level outside. but it's not to the level where it's just undoable or unwinnable. All right, guys, we are getting towards the end of the podcast. We've almost been going for an hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up to you guys. Just go ahead, ask any questions you want. We'll answer them. And we are just going to talk a little bit about just general stuff while you guys send some questions in. So I wanted to kind of touch on something you were saying earlier, Optimus, when we first started this podcast today. You was talking about one of the reasons you like Conquest, and it was the investing in teams. And it's something I was talking about for raids, for example. If you want to invest in some of these meta but unneeded teams, like Tuskens, for example. Tuskens are a great team, but you don't need them. Using them for Conquest, because you have 3 months the Conquest is going to be out, I feel is a valid reason to want to invest in them. So some teams at the moment, which you may have jumped on the trend and invested in. We have Wookiees. Wookiees is a current Conquest team. We have Phoenix as a current Conquest team. And I just feel like being able to divert resources towards Phoenix or towards Wookiees or towards Tuskens, a team that is not needed for any journey guide. So it's uncommon for you guys out there to be investing in at low GPs. Could be quite beneficial for us.
So I've had this take for a long time, and it's, at least I feel it's gotten true as time has gone on. I know I've talked about with you about this. I'm of the opinion that CG truly wants us to move away from the traditional, follow this farming guide because you should build this team to this team to this team, or what's the best farming guide routes. I think CG wants us to get to a point where there is truly no bad team to start with, or that there's any, you can invest in any faction and you will be rewarded to a certain extent. And obviously, some people will have better success than others. But CG, and I think with the Lightseed bundles that came out, CG wants, I think they've pivoted to they want us investing in the latest and greatest content, and they'll do we've got Conquest feats, and we've got raids, and we've got new Galactic Legends and all that come out, and they're willing to take a loss on older content to invest in some of the newer contents. Let's take for example this past season with the crate raid. Yeah. We had the teams you needed were Mandos, Tuskens, Old Republic. And I know that there were a lot of people saying, why would I invest in Old Republic? Why would I take my Karth or my Mission to Relics? Or why would I take my Tuskens to Relics? Well, I mean, when you look at it here, let's just say, I Relics my Karth Old Republic. And, you look at this team. They, perform decently well in the crate raid. If you want to give them, I know we talked about TB Omicrons in the last pod, you can give them a TB Omicron. All of a sudden now that becomes a team that you can consistently use in Rise of the Empire territory battles. They're not needed for platoons, and they're guaranteed waves there if you do that. In Conquest, at Relics, most, I would say, and I'm sure you can tell me if you've experienced otherwise, but as long as your team is at Relic 4 or 5 and above, your team is just not really, they can withstand some beating. But Karth teams do really well in Conquest. If you use the Caustic Emissions Datacron, they don't die because the other team just keeps getting so many debuffs and they just don't die. So that's a team that you can use throughout multiple phases and multiple waves of Conquest, and even lowering your stamina. And this was a team that, and also on top of that, you're getting good raid points. So now when we're looking at this next raid, maybe you should invest in Phoenix because they do well in Conquest. They've got feats, and even when their feats stop, the value is there for that.
All right, we've got some questions here to go over. Okay, great take, by the way, and I do agree with you on the Karth stuff. So we've got the first question: Gear 12 or Signal Data with Conquest tickets?
Oh, Signal Data, easy.
Yeah, Signal Data for me as well. Then we have: should your account have a focus on Conquest or focus on the other main game modes, TB, TW, and GAG? Oh,
that's a good question. I feel like I just talked, so I'll let you handle that one first.
So my thought process here is don't treat it as focusing on Conquest. Treat it as farming a Conquest team that does well in other game modes, right? So for example, we just spoke about Calf for TB. If that's the game mode you like, you can go ahead, you can farm the Calf team. We all have Calf more or less at Relic now because of Lightspeed bundles, and that also translates to Conquest. Maybe you want to farm CLS for Territory War, GAC, but now you also get, to use them in Conquest. Maybe Iden. Maybe you want to go and farm Iden for the new raid, but then it translates to Conquest. So don't think of it as, you're just farming for Conquest. Think of it as you're farming teams for other modes which benefit you across the board.
I'm pretty much with you there. I think at the end of the day, pick a mode. Whatever mode is most important to you. That's the one you should invest in. I personally think that PvE has the best rewards, raids and territory battles. I know we covered it in the last podcast. Territory battles is just a gold mine for the amount of material that's there that you can get. However, it is guild related, and if your guild is not really about those modes, then maybe focus on GAC or TW. However, the good thing with Conquest is that as long as your team is reasonably invested and you are using the optimal data disk comps, you'll be fine. You don't necessarily need to have this is the best TW team this is the best Conquest team. Obviously, we named our few ones that we've had the most success with, but I would say try to have teams don't be afraid to invest in certain teams. But I would lean towards PvE because I think just raids and TB give you the most value.
I mean, it makes sense. Raids and TB and PvE in general is a constant set reward structure, whereas Grand Arena and Territorial fluctuates. You don't always win. Mm-hmm. Right, next question from Ronan's Epic Life Adventures. What are your speculations on the best light side Mando team? That's a great question. So we actually have different opinions here. Because we were speaking about this the other day. I'm of the opinion, I can't actually remember what you. I feel really bad now. I can't remember what you said. We were talking about IG-12's coming out. Mm-hmm. I don't know if IG-12 is going to be in the Mando team. I think you said you think it is, right? That's what we said.
No, I said I don't think he is.
Was it me who said he thinks it is? I can't even remember, man. Okay, you know what? Let me just say my point, and then you say your point, and then we go from there, guys. I have
sounds good
today. So, okay, IG-12 is coming out. I think he's gonna have Mando tags, Unaligned Force User, and Droid. That's what I think is gonna happen. Oh no, I remember now that it's come back. You said you think he's gonna be a shorty team. I remember now.
Yes,
I remember.